And you might remember Linda Williams too, who worked with, and she's, I forgot, she's going to kill me. It's either Google or AWS. I think it's, I can't remember.
Yeah.
It might be Google, but she's actually on a couple public company boards as well. So, certainly, Kristen, great opportunity for you out there. So you mentioned Ixia. So interestingly enough, they are on the go-to-market focus. So they were direct only, and then you shifted them over to the channel, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Essentially, they had been selling direct to the primarily to networking OEMs and other kinds of OEMs. And they had acquired 2 companies prior to my joining the company that were selling into IT. So that's a very different market. That's very different from selling to a manufacturer of test equipment or products as a test equipment sales rep. And as a result of that, we had to build an enterprise channel, and we did. And my understanding is Keysight still sells those products today through the channel. It was very hard work, and I know Randy knows this because HP was very channel focused, but moving a company from direct to channel is not easy. People deal with that, I think, sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, and especially because sometimes the direct, when you're selling direct, it's like, what do you mean we have to work with this partner? And are they going to do their job? And, will it really work? And why am I giving them margin and all this stuff? But at the end of the day, you choose good partners, you train them appropriately, and you sell together. It's a team sport, right? And good things happen. And then that happened with Ixia. We ended up being able to do that. But I would say it was, it definitely was hard work. It took us a while.
Yeah. I mean, I never, common sense, logic doesn't prevail, but, several companies, I've seen the movies, I'm sure you have too. So, assume you've got a comp neutral comp plan for the sales, and you say, okay, you can go at it yourself, but guess what? You can only be in one place at one time. You can only be on one phone call or now one Zoom at one time or one face-to-face sales call. God forbid anybody's still doing that. Or you can go through channel partners where you could have, multiples, 5, 10, 15, 20, sales resources, having sales calls, tech, sales engineering, pre-sales resources doing things. And it just, we're just the way, a lot of people's, I think, psyche are wired is kind of, hey, they want to have control.
Yeah.
Who cares about control? Just worry about, selling more and making more.
That's right. And you sell more and you make more as a result of having partners and having good partners. And I think it does take folks who've only sold direct time to really realize that, right? And not go, hey, these guys are bothering me. They're getting in the middle of my deal. Stop it, right? Yeah. And it just takes a couple of good experiences where something good happened, or for a partner to bring them into a deal. Like that's magic, because then they go, whoa, wait a minute, these people have their own relationships, which they do. They do have their own relationships. So they're not just fulfillment. Many times they're advisors to companies. So I think it's certainly a big transition for any company, and it costs money and time, but it's a way to grow your company, right, in a pretty phenomenal at a growth clip that's pretty good, where you couldn't have gotten that from a direct sell model. It's too expensive the other way. So
absolutely. So culturally changing that, did you have to, I don't know what you're allowed to say or not say, but kind of did you have to have a, kind of come to Jesus with the leadership team and management team, and then kind of have it cascade down, or
we actually did it at the sales meeting. I basically said, okay, look, listen, I'm not going to put up with this crap. We are going to channel. We are making it comp neutral. We will be doing it. And those who don't want to do it need to rethink where they are, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a strategy for the company, and you got to either be on board with that strategy or get out of the way and go do something else. So we did have a conversation like that. And I mean, I said it probably a lot more nicely, but that's basically what I said. Because we had a guy who raised his hand and said, hey, why do I have to work with these people? They don't do anything, and I'm not giving them my margin. And it was the opportunity that I could talk about this just in honest terms about, look, this is why we're doing this. Yeah. And this is what you're going to get out of it. and it won't hurt you financially, and it will help you. And then, we had a great channel sales leader who did a very good job. And so she really made a difference in growing those partnerships. And one last thing was, we had a phenomenal, I'm still very close to, Naveen Bhatt, who was over, I think I don't know who he's with now, but he was in Singapore and he ran Asia. I know he has a PhD in like physics. He's really smart. And he did everything through partners already. Like, he really understood the partner channel model. And that made a big difference, because just his credibility with the other leaders got them more on board with, hey, this could work for you, right? So that helped a lot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you need to do that, certainly in the Asia market, for sure. Yeah, interesting. So on the you've certainly been around on the M&A front. You sold Ixia, you had EFI, you took that company private, that was public. Any, I'll say, advice maybe on the M&A front from all you've been involved with?
Yeah. I also was part of the selling the Pulse Secure too. And I would say that, and one thing that we did, Randy, and you remember this, and Dave actually drove this, was the integration of all the companies that were acquired by HP. If you recall, that was a big deal too. So both of us have been on the receiving end and the selling end and all kinds of different ends of that. And what I would say is that one thing that's really important right from the get-go is industrial logic associated with the choice that you're making. When I was running Ixia, we did not buy another company. We looked a lot. But, honestly, I didn't see something that really fit in our company appropriately that wouldn't have, caused accretion issues or whatever. I wanted to make sure that it had industrial logic, that it made sense from a product perspective, that we could integrate it well, and that it provided more value to the customer than we could at the time. And I think that's sort of the first and foremost thing that you want to think about as a company when you decide to, acquire something. And I mean, I did not found Ixia. I worked with the founder, Errol, very closely, and according to the industry, they said Errol will never sell, but of course he eventually did, and he did because it was a good choice of a home for the company, good value for the shareholders, and at the end of the day, the really key thing was the industrial logic was very good. Back to that industrial logic concept. So that's the important. I think probably the number one thing I would talk to you about is how important industrial logic is when you either sell or acquire a company.
Gotcha. And then would you say, if you're on the selling side of a company, what percent of time is it of value to hire a banker, would you say?
I think it's a good percentage. I mean, all the deals that I've done had a banker involved. So, and they have their strong capabilities, and they have things they don't do well, right? At the end of the day, the CEO and the management team really are the ones who have to provide an explanation and a view of both the company's financials as well as the products that they're building, the products that they sell to their customers. And so that's the management's job. And the bank's job is to, prepare the company for sale, understand what the value of the company is, and then also, potentially in some cases, go out and look for companies that might be interested in the sale in that particular asset for them, for their own company to acquire. So I think bankers definitely play a strong role. We had a great banker for the sale of Ixia, and the same with, the acquisitions on I think in HP, I wasn't involved with those, but I know they had a banker involved. And the other sales, there's always bankers.
Yeah, it seems, from my experience is you can't have leadership take the eye off the ball of running the company.
Oh,
because if
no.
through, then you're, kind of totally stuck. So having somebody that can do the blocking and tackling, you can still go to meetings, but at least you're still, focused.
Yeah, you're still focused on the company. Absolutely. Yeah, you can't, like, the numbers are the numbers. You gotta, you got forecasts to hit, you got things to do, got customers to take care of, and absolutely, that's partly why bankers are a good part of the solution. Absolutely.
Definitely. So your son Sean is at Kaboom, if I'm saying that right, and
yeah.
there you go. And I saw a post that you did saying that they're hiring, so we'll give him a shout out. But really
That's
cool.
Right.
And your words were that you said that he's a wonderful leader, and he would be great to work with and great to work for.
Yes, of course, I'm a little biased, but I do believe that he's a really nice, smart kid, and he works hard, and I think his team members really appreciate him. So, and he is hiring, so that, I know some folks are looking, so maybe that's an opportunity.
There you go. Do you know what the website is? And I could have Tucker pull it up.
I know it's Cobham Advanced Electronic Systems, I believe. I want to say that. And I don't know, maybe it's casc.com, perhaps.
All right. So Tucker, if you can figure that out, actually, maybe look up Sean on LinkedIn. That might be the easier way to do it. So we're doing this real time here. So Sean is SEAN, and
yes.
Then Meyer would be his last name.
Yeah, Mayer.
All right, so Tucker, maybe you can do that. So if not, don't worry about it. He probably wants to kill me right now. Anyway, so I guess opposite from hiring, tied in with that a little bit, is certainly there's a lot of layoffs happening now. My 2 cents is I think a lot of companies is just sloppy performance management. So that's why, a lot of folks are getting cut that maybe should have been before. But in spite of that, any advice that you would have for people that have been impacted in any of the recent layoffs, especially tech sales?
Yeah, I know there's folks looking right now, and I'm really sorry that that's happening in the industry. My advice, and first one is obviously, hopefully you're on LinkedIn because you're watching this, so please be on LinkedIn and network with people. It's funny, it's surprising that you end up people who, most of the jobs that I got during my career were through friends and through people I knew. There were only a few where they went through a recruiter, and one happened to be HP, but a lot of the other jobs that I got throughout my career were because I knew somebody who knew somebody and they were looking for a job. So you've really got to do your networking. And even if you just, have a cup of coffee with people, do a Zoom session, just connect as much as possible and tell people what you're looking for. Again, they don't know if you don't tell them. So I think that's a really important aspect of it. And the other idea is, think about, do you want to educate yourself in some way to increase your value? Is there a certificate you can get? Is there something that you can, think about from a learning perspective that might help you be more appealing or help you pivot to another role within the company? I mean, sometimes salespeople, move from selling to sales ops, as an example. I don't know. What do you think, Randy?
Yeah, I think those are great points, and I think especially you can always hone up on just your sales skills. There's certainly a lot of different methodologies out there, Medic and others. I think also a lot of the sales tech stack tools that are there that kind of didn't exist 10 years ago. Now there's hundreds or thousands, but speaking of which, Gong is our sponsor, so there's a lot of ways that Gong and others can really help sales reps really sell more faster, and ultimately I think just be kind of a student of the game, right? I mean, there's so many different podcasts, webinars, books, and things like that you can see, and it may be bad to say, but kind of my experience is I think just sales has gotten sloppier over the years, not sharper and crisper, which is mind-boggling to me. So
yeah. The other thought I would have too is if you get contacted by, so probably at some point in your career, you've been contacted by a headhunter. My advice is you make friends with those people. You know who they are, right? And you go back to them in times that are tough, because those are the folks who also can help you. So if you get contacted ever, just have a cup of coffee with these people. They're actually really wonderful, and they'll remember you, and keep those relationships going. I mean, at the end of the day, we're people working together. And so these relationships are really the way things happen for you. So that's some thought.
Absolutely. And then we talked about a little bit before with kind of diversity into sales, but maybe more generally, other advice maybe for people that want to break into tech sales?
Yeah. I think your point was well taken about, young people moving into selling, but so there's always BDR opportunities to get started. There's always inside sales opportunities to get started when you're young. And they're not easy jobs. They're not easy jobs, but you learn a lot and they train you, right? So you get trained. So that's the first part of it. But then as you get, more advanced in your career, one thing I would say is there are a lot of people in engineering and in other parts of the company, product marketing, product management, who could end up going into sales. And I mean, selling is a relationship that's a big part of that role. And also understanding the product and how the product is valued by the customer, because I'm sure you're all aware value selling is really important. It's not about price selling, it's about value selling and what it means for the customer to use the product. So I do think that there's an opportunity for people outside of sales to go into sales. The other thing that's good about sales is that, they're the last to go, honestly. You just don't want to cut your sales force very often, because if you do that, you lose that opportunity to get to a customer. So sales reps are usually held onto very, very tightly if they're good, and you can be good. There's a lot of folks I know who've gone from product management to sales engineering and into selling, and they're great salespeople. So there are opportunities to do it, and it's a good job, pays really well, and you meet a lot of people. So I think that's fun.
Totally. So our friend Dave Donatelli said that he's not commenting on LinkedIn yet. I guess it's part of his, getting used to it, which I guess we all had to go through. So he said, first off, to me, Randy, lose the beard. So the beard, separate from you, your vote counts, but Janet's vote counts a lot more. So we'll do that. And then he says, Bethany, you're the best, exclamation. But as a question, Bethany asks, what are your top tips for people who aspire to move into executive management?
Wow. That's a good question. So a couple of things. First, I would say that is absolutely table stakes is do what you do well, right? I mean, you have to be doing good work at any level in order to continue your journey of growing and moving up in the company. So, and I saw a quote from Charlie Munger just yesterday or today about, the stuff that's on your desk, do it and do it well. First of all, that's the key. I think one of the first things that has to happen. And then I would say the next step is work on, there's people talk about, well, go find a mentor, right? Actually, there's two kinds of people, mentors and sponsors, and these are different people, okay? Mentors are people who give you advice and, can't necessarily advance you in your career. But there are people in your sphere, both high and across your peer group, who can help you move up. And you need to get to know those folks. I would tell you that, really probably my biggest sponsor was Dave Donatelli, because he was the one who stuck his neck out to actually put me in a role that really probably most people wouldn't have seen as the right role for me. And I just was given a chance, and I took that chance, right? I said, fine. I remember I was dragging my luggage across a tarmac in Belize, right? It was hot. And he goes, hey, guess what? I need you to watch the networking business for a while. I'm like, what? And my husband goes, say yes. And I said, okay. And I mean, that from there, we went on, right?
Yeah.
So find those sponsors, because they are there, and they may not be the ones giving you all the advice in the world, and they may not be warm and fuzzy, and they may not be a lot of other things, but they will stick their neck out for you. And they're the ones who see something in you and say, hey, yeah, that person can do that. So look for those. And I would say the next thing is, again, learning, always educating yourself, learning something new certificates, new skill set, new role. That's another thing that's really important. Because honestly, as much as I laughed about Dave and the MBA, honestly, I don't think I would have gotten the job if I didn't have an MBA. They looked at that. That was actually a requirement for an SVP. So if I recall, maybe I'm wrong, Dave, you can tell me, but I do think that mattered, and I had just gotten it. So there's that. And then the last thing I would say is believe in yourself, that these things are possible. Like you can do what you want to do. You have to work hard. You have to be respectful. You have to take those opportunities when they come along and say yes when you get asked. But you can do this. You can do these things. You can do really wonderful things in the world. I was just kind of, I don't know, I was went from going to school to getting a job to sort of, oh, this looks interesting, that looks interesting. That's how I moved along in my career. You can do these things, completely possible. So,
as I say, you can do it. And I think you're an example of, and Dave especially. I mean, Dave back from the EMC days. I mean, I thought he was crazy. He was doing supply chain, he's doing manufacturing, he's doing marketing, customer service. But I mean, that kind of just allowed to groom him to be really a fantastic technology executive. And so it's not just just being in the sales side, but take the opportunity. You may not want to be in customer success or customer service forever, but kind of doing a stint in a lot of companies that have a longer term view will be happy to pluck top talent and say, okay, we do have a plan. We want to put you here, and there. And if you do that, then 10 years from now, if people can have a longer term view like that, here's what the opportunity can be for you. So we're kind of getting on here with time. So a couple of questions I want to get to before we run out of time. So any examples of sales leaders that you respect and why?
Well, I have to say, so Dave's a great sales leader. You're a great sales leader. I loved to watch what you did leading sales, just from a culture perspective, a discipline perspective. I think that's really important in sales. Accountability. Those are things that really make the difference in sales. I mean, you have to be accountable, because other people rely on what you say and what you say you're going to do. And so I felt like, honestly, Randy, I thought you did an amazing job as a sales leader. You held people accountable. You also were a success-oriented leader, meaning, everyone got to participate in success. And when we had success, we had it all together. It wasn't just one person, it was everybody, which I thought was really exciting. Also, you cared deeply about educating folks. And I remember at at some of our what were the things where we had all the salespeople all get training. Man, you did not go outside of that room if Randy was around. You stayed in that room and you learned. You did not wander the halls. You did not go have a cup of coffee. You got your butt in that chair and you learned the products. So I think that's really important, because you can't learn, what a switch does if you're sitting out having a chat with a cup of coffee. It just doesn't work like that. So anyways, I have great respect for you. I have great respect for Sue. Dave was a former sales leader that that I got to work with as well. And I know he went on to do more, all kinds of things, including some level of sales within Oracle, where he ran the cloud. So anyways, I think those are people that I have great respect for. And this is, selling isn't a cakewalk. It's a lot of work, and has some hardships, but I'm just, really impressed to be around people like you. I think you do a fabulous job.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Very, very nice of you. So maybe here in conclusion, so you talked about mentors before, maybe talk about maybe one or two pieces of advice that you've received over the years, and maybe one or two pieces of advice that you would give your younger self.
Well, I never received this advice, but I would tell you, I will give you this advice. And it was something that I just followed just kind of naturally. And that is to be curious. And what I mean by that is I followed a very circuitous path through my career. I started out in manufacturing and engineering. I moved into product management, and then I moved into marketing. And then I went into like sales enablement, and I had a corporate development and business development, and then into a P&L leader. And so all of those things required a curiosity about, hey, what do they do, right? Like, what's their job, and why would that be interesting to do, and could I do that? And when I got the opportunity to do it, I said, yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try it, right? And it was always like learning a foreign language, every time I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this, but then eventually you do. And so I would say, one, be curious, because that circuitous route actually gives you a lot of breadth of knowledge and experience and empathy about what other people do in the company. And it helps you be a well-rounded leader as you move through your career. So that's one thing that I would tell, younger people. And I had a wonderful mentor, Judy Estrin, who I worked with early in my career at Cisco, and she was a serial entrepreneur. And what I was so impressed about with Judy was her ability to really kind of cut through all the noise and stuff and look at a situation very logically and kind of almost scientifically in an engineering manner, and say, this is the problem, this is how we solve it, no drama, right? And I learned a lot from that, because that's how I tried to be as a leader. I tried to keep the drama low. I tried to focus on the problem, not on people. And let's, get around the table and look at the problem together and try to solve it. And she was very instrumental in how I went through the world in my career and my operating roles. So I was very thankful to have her as a mentor to me.
That's great. All right. Well, time flies when you're having fun. You've been awesome, and we obviously could have gone on for hours and hours, but thanks for making the time. And next week, or not next week, on Wednesday this week, we have episode number 107 with Dave Valente, who's co-founder of SiliconANGLE and theCUBE. His topic is going to be the future of data in the cloud. And for those that don't know Dave Valente, he's kind of a master, been behind the scenes and front and center around all kinds of different technology movements. His kind of CEO, interviews, I think, are legendary, and definitely is a great person and has a wealth of knowledge. So tune into that as well. So thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate it. Bethany.
Thank you.
Tucker's going to disconnect, and if you can just stay on for a couple minutes, that'd be great.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Take care.
Take care.